Let's talk a little bit about the guys that are coming back. Nick Court, who's on Twitter at Nick Court, he works with overthecap.com. He kind of put this thing out there, and I think this is a fantastic kind of breakdown and a little bit of a perspective on where the Broncos are really going to be coming from this year. So he went through 2020 total snaps due to enter 2021 unrestricted free agency. So the most right now are teams like Arizona, New England. And by the way, some of these are by design. Like some of these teams know that the reset is coming. So
Right.
New England's a team that's perfectly set up to hit the reset. Like they already knew once Tom Brady left, they were going to kind of string things along, hopefully get a pretty decent draft pick and kind of move on. And I think that they were prepared for this for a little while. They've been setting up. But interestingly enough, so you have Arizona, New England, Cincinnati, San Francisco as sort of some of the top teams. San Francisco is another one that we kind of knew eventually the bill was going to come due. They weren't going to be able to keep all of that talent all the time. But the fewest amount of snaps due to enter 2021 unrestricted free agency, basically the most guys coming back, Miami, again, when we talk about a young team, Green Bay, at 15.8%, and then Denver at 16.1%. Now, there's something very in common. Well, I'll get to your point here. There's something really in common with all these groups. So, first of all, youth. And second of all, they're teams that are actually positioned to not only maybe even make the postseason along some of these lines. You have Green Bay, Buffalo, New Orleans. And that's kind of it. But then the rest of these teams all are going to be in position by next year because they have enough talent. Mm-hmm. But the Broncos at 16.1%, what does that mean to you?
Well, that's the team number. But the interesting part of that to me is when you break it down, they're number one in terms of least snaps scheduled to leave via free agency on offense.
That's right.
In fact, the only offensive players scheduled to leave are backup tight ends and right tackle. And then on defense, they're still top five.
They're eighth, actually.
Are they eighth?
Yep.
Okay, I thought they were top five. I misread that. But still eighth. That's still pretty good.
Yes.
If you look at the defense, the players that would be scheduled to leave are guys that they're going to make an effort to re-sign, whether it's Justin Simmons, Shelby Harris, or Jarrell Casey. Those are the main names. There's some other names in there, but those are the main ones. So and AJ Bouye is whether or not you do his deal, but it's really interesting. You've got a team it's pretty stacked. They're that can win. They're going to run it back, and you've got a lot of potential, and not a lot of them are leaving. You're not going to have a lot of turnover after this year. So you really do have a chance to run it back with a team that's talented enough to win. Just needs to get healthy.
Yeah, and we kind of said that for a little while. I felt like even in the offseason, we kind of said, things are stacking up in a way that this season, if it doesn't quite go the way you want it to, and again, this is an exact conversation. You can go back and listen to it, BroncosCountryTonight.com. Throughout the offseason, we said, if things don't quite run the way you want them to, you are kind of set up in a little bit of a mini 2-year window here with the same guys. So unless it really falls off a cliff and nothing is working, then you're going to be in position to, as you put it, run it back. You're going to be in position to have a lot of the same offensive players back out there. And I guess the question we'll have to ask at the very end of the season is, did they do enough to earn that? Did they do enough to run it back? I feel at this point it's a yes, but you still have 4 games remaining. So I think you have to argue both sides of that coin. So just as we said just a little bit ago with Drew Lock, well, you can't make a definitive decision right now on whether he is or is not the guy because the audition is still happening. You're still trying to gain information. There's still 4 games left. You don't have to make that decision after the 12th game after week 13. But the same applies on the other side of this. Like if you do get to the end of the season and you haven't answered those questions, then you have to have some serious conversations about the direction of the team.
Yeah, I think you should be having those conversations anyway. I think you should. I think healthy skepticism is a good thing, but I also think that you can't just go explosively emotional and just say we need to blow it up, fire everybody, do it. Like, you need to have an honest observation like, are these quality players? Are these players executing a quality scheme? Is that scheme able to keep you competitive and allow you to win football games? And if you can have honest conversations about those things, you look at this team and you say, you know what, if they had Von Miller and Cortland Sutton and Juwan James, we're probably talking about a different record. We're probably talking about a team that's 500 or better right now.
I mean, that kind of significant injuries. Like everybody always comes back with, everybody team is experiencing injuries.
Your 2 best players.
You didn't have your quarterback the entirety of the season. You went to 4 different quarterbacks this year, including Kendall Hinton.
Yeah. And you had, you played a game without a quarterback. You had, your best player on defense and your best player on offense missed the whole season, basically. Cortland missed most of the season. Yeah, he was there for one game. I think this team is better than people think. And I think if they make a change at the special teams coordinator, I'm okay with that. They need to do that. Maybe you bring some competition in at the quarterback position. You go out there. There's some names we've talked about them ad nauseum. I'll repeat them to you. And a new name entered that market today. But Sam Darnold and Matt Stafford are two we've talked about. Mitchell Trubisky is a name to keep your eye on as well. But Carson Wentz. The Eagles have named Jalen Hurts a starter, and if they move on from Carson Wentz, and I honestly expect Carson to wind up in Indy and be the successor to Phil Rivers, but
makes sense with Frank Reich there.
Right?
Yeah,
that's what I expect. But the Broncos liked, and John Elway liked Carson Wentz coming out a lot. They had him above Goff on the board that year. They ended up with Paxton Lynch, but they wanted Carson Wentz. In fact, they tried to put a trade together to get Carson Wentz that year. Didn't get anywhere close, but they tried to. I'll say this. Carson Wentz's deal, it sucks for the Eagles, but it's very friendly once you trade it.
Well, that's a great point you bring up because, right now when everybody has seen what the numbers, because everybody's put that out on Twitter, as soon as Jalen Hurts was named the starter, everybody put out, well, there's no way the Eagles get out from underneath this. But all of those guarantees and the dead cap doesn't travel.
Right. That just hurts the Eagles.
Yes.
And there are, and I'm going to tell you, the Eagles are considering blowing the whole thing up and starting over. I think that the realization has kind of set in that Doug Peterson wasn't really the reason that they won a Super Bowl. It was Frank Reich. I think that realization has set in, and I think that the Eagles casually are like, you know what? Well, we're going to have to make a change. We probably need to make a coaching change. I'm not sure if we need to make a general manager change. And, they're going to have to blow up a lot of that roster in order to do it. They've got a lot of high-priced guys on there that they can get out from under pretty quick. And so it's feasible. You could have a 1 year, blow it up, reset, and come back kind of deal, and if they do and they shop Carson Wentz, I'm not opposed. I think I think he'd be a great reclamation project.
But that's the point. Is we're talking about reclamation projects between Trubisky, between Wentz, with Sam Darnold. All of those guys, none of them are sure things, and that's why this development time with Drew Lock is still very important.
Right, and I think that if you're Drew Lock, you need to maximize the reps right now because you're probably going to be in a competition next year, any which way you slice it. And there's probably going to be competition with a veteran who's been in the league a while, the names we've mentioned. The Broncos may draft a quarterback. They might. But from everything that I've been told, I don't think they're going to go in that direction simply because Vic's going to enter the season with a playoff mandate. And he should. And that's the point. Whether you've been a supporter or not of Vic Fangio, and I think he's a good coach. That's what he's going to enter that season with, is basically a playoff mandate. You got, your youngest offense in the league has matured for a year. You're getting healthy. Your defense should have it by now, year 3. And to be fair, I think they have. They've looked pretty good this year. I feel like you probably have to take a veteran because a rookie quarterback's going to take too long to bring along. You're just going to hit the reset button like you did with Drew?
Yeah, they're not going to allow this team to continue to kick the can down the road.
Right.
There eventually has to be. They put a plan together years ago. It's finally kind of coming together, at least in the direction it's supposed to be. Next year's the year that has to happen.
I agree, and they agree.